What's up guys, it's your boy Mickey back here again with another episode of content on our 240SX giveaway car. Just a reminder, if you guys aren't already signed up to win this car, it's really easy to enter. For every $5 you spend, you get 1 entry to win this car. If you're a VIP member, every $5 you spend gets you 3 entries to win this car. So, all that said, let's move on to getting some of the work done on this thing because it has to go off the paint, and that means I have to get the hood pins installed before it goes. That way they can paint the hood, and I don't have to cut it after it comes back. So the first thing we want to do is actually figure out where we want to put the pin. But in order to determine that, you kind of have to also determine where you want to put the latch itself. The latch is, because it is on the outside of the car, it's an aesthetic thing. Speaking of aesthetics, the one cool thing about the Aero catch pins is they can be painted. So we could drop these off with the car and have them painted as well so they match the hood. A lot of people just leave them black. Knowing the color scheme that we're going to go with this car, I will probably end up leaving them black as well because it's not going to affect the overall look of the car. It actually probably look cooler with them black. Anyway, it looks like Nissan actually made our jobs really easy. So it's easy to get excited when you see stuff like this. I don't know what these holes are for originally, but they're no longer being used on this car. And it just so happens to be a little bigger than our hood pin itself and would be a good place to locate our hood pins. But don't get excited too quick because you have to check to make sure you have the proper clearances and it puts your hood latch in the location where you want it to be. And now, I have a sneaky feeling that this location isn't actually going to work for us because our hood has the latch to be where that pin is located. So I'll try to put the hood down on the pin and show you guys. Basically, our latch would need to be right in this region here. And I know it's probably very difficult to see on the camera, but this hood actually has a shape going this way, and then it swoops up. So then you have a shape here, and that creates this funky little, I guess, point on the front of the hood right here. Very, very difficult to see on the camera, but with my eyes I can see it. And what I don't want to have happen is put this hood latch on and have it not sitting flat. So I'm going to grab the backing plate and just use it sort of as a template. As you guys can see, this is not flat. It sits up. It's never going to lay flat. So what I want to do is get it in an area where I can get the hood pins fairly flat. So somewhere in here is probably pretty good, away from this little section here that's doing a couple different angles. So that would put our pins somewhere in this region here. Keep in mind, these are meant to be mounted with the fatter part facing forward and this latch going to the back. You are not meant to mount them like this. They used to say in the directions that you aren't supposed to, and they used to have arrows on them as well, I think, on the bottom side to indicate which way they're supposed to go. But the fatter round portion is meant to go to the front, and you pull the latch towards you to lock them. So this area here looks like it's actually going to be a pretty good spot for us. Aesthetically, it will look pretty symmetrical. We'll have pretty much one here and one here. And now I just need to locate where the pins are going to go on here. So we've got a lot of material to work with. I'm going to go ahead and get this laid out and get started drilling some holes. Alright, again guys, slow and steady wins the race here. I've made 1, 2, 3 of my cuts. I still have to cut the one across the back here. But I went ahead and notched these corners out in the front. Again, be very careful when you're doing this, you don't punch through the top. When you're using a grinder, you gotta get the wheel through enough to cut all the way through, and the length you're trying to cut, using the diameter of the wheel, which means you have to push it in a decent amount to make sure you don't cut through the top. There's a second layer in here, and there's also a lot of almost like a seam sealer type glue. It's still sort of soft, but it's also holding this panel in place inside. And I think a lot of it has to do with the mounting of this metal latch inside. So it's probably structured for that and to keep this from being flimsy. But there is a bit of it in there. So that adds even a little more pucker factor when cutting this, because we know we got to reach through far enough to get through that as well. One option you have is just to go a little bit at a time, which is what I'm doing, taking it very slow and just being methodical about what I'm doing so I don't screw up. I'll go through now and cut the back. Okay, so here's the panel we cut out, guys. Here's some of the inside that we're dealing with. It's just a thin layer of glass that they laid in here. This is what the back side looks like. Pretty thick stuff that they just basically hog out and bond in the metal tab for your hood latch. And up in here I still have a little bit of material that I need to remove. But the good news is I stayed away from the carbon structural panel on the outside that would have shown through on the top if I touched it. You got to be really careful on the front. It's very close here. Go ahead and focus on sort of getting this cleaned up. One thing I hate is when guys install hood pins and they just chop away at the bottom and don't have any rhyme or reason to what they do. You pop their hood at an event and all you see is this big sawed hole in the bottom, and they're both different. I like to keep things symmetrical, so what we'll probably do is locate our pins. They look like they're going to be right in this region right here, and we'll go ahead and open up that area where the base plate needs to go through, and we'll go through with my little rotary tool and clean it all up and make it look nice. One trick of locating where these hood pins are going to go, because it is kind of tricky once you put this in, figuring out where the exact hole is going to be to drill. What I do is I like to put a little bit of grease on the back or on the top of whatever that item is, and then I'll put it in its location. Then I'll put the hood down on it, and wherever the grease is on the hood, we can pretty much guess if that's going to be where our hole is going to be at. Found it. Just make sure the holes match up on both sides, meaning the pin didn't move one way or the other when you put the hood down. And you can kind of eyeball it as well. I can see where the grease is there. Go ahead and kind of watch it all the way down. We're good. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and drill some holes. Alright, so as you can see here, we've got our two holes. I hope you can see. The holes are right there. They're symmetrical. Time to start making some bigger holes. Alright guys, so a very important step here is to make sure that we'll first put some tape down on the hood. That way you don't scratch the carbon fiber. Whether you're painting it or not, it doesn't matter. It's better just to take 2 seconds and put some tape down. It also serves as a place for you to use a Sharpie and make a template on the hood without drawing on the hood directly. What I've done is I've actually grabbed our backing plate and our Aero catch latch, put them together, laid them on top of my tape marks over the holes in the hood where the pins are going to pop through. And what I've done is I've actually taped the backing plate to the hood itself, and I've loosely adjusted the latches so that I can step back and make sure that what we've got is a straight latch, and we don't have latches that are crooked or one's higher than the other or whatever. What I'm using is just a simple tape measure to make sure that from the front of the hood we're about 2 inches from the lip of the hood to the front of the Aero catch. And then getting a measurement off the back, we're at about 18.5 on center. What I can do then is actually measure to the headlight cutout and see where we're at there. We're at 6 inches. And then again 6 inches. So by eyeball, I've actually stood back and got them very, very, very close to straight. So now that you know you're straight, you can remove this guy off. Your backing plate's still sitting there taped down, and now all you have to do is trace the inside of the backing plate, and there's your template. And now we can go back with the rotary tool and cut that all out. So I'm feeling pretty confident with where we are now. Now we can start making big holes. Now I gotta get the bottom plates on, get the bottom side hardware on, and fasten these bad boys up. But this is essentially how they're gonna look. It's nice and symmetrical. They fit right between the gills, which is pretty cool. Nice and square. That's kind of the hard part, is just getting those on. Now I gotta just, like I said, fasten up the bottom. Then I'll go back, get the pins aligned. They're just aluminum pins, so as long as you're close, you can give them a little bend here or there, just to get them to fit through the hole just right. And then we'll go back and do the dirty work, which is all the cleanup around the edges and make sure that it looks good before we send it off to paint. So if you've done a good job fitting everything, you should have very few issues getting the hood pins to line up with the latches. However, there's always going to be a little bit of variable. The nice thing is, as I said earlier, the pins are actually aluminum. So once you get them mounted, you can actually bend them just a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and fiddle with this. It takes a little bit of time just adjusting and playing around to get it just right. So I'm going to do that now. I'm not going to bore you guys with that content. All right, guys. So I went ahead and fed all the screws and nuts through the hood pins. We're all mounted up. Looks like a good job. Everything's solid and stable, so I'm really happy with the way this turned out. Again, this all has to get blown back apart so the car can go off the paint, and they can paint it. We'll put them back on once the car's all done. So my work's done here. All the final adjusting will be done once the car is assembled and actually functioning. So thank you guys so much for tagging along and watching the hood pin install. Shout out to Aero Catch for making a sweet product. If you guys are in the market for a set of your own Aero Catches or a Seibon hood, check out throtlVIP. We sell both of those products at awesome pricing, probably cheaper than you can get anywhere else, which is rad. So give us a shot. We'll see you guys next time. Peace out.